My fiancée lied about being pregnant to trap me into marriage, so I played along until her entire scheme collapsed in front of everyone she loved. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I genuinely believed I had found the woman I'd grow old with. That's the truth. For the longest time, Melissa felt like the one constant in my life's soft laughter, warm hugs, and this almost magnetic way of making me feel chosen. We had these little rituals, late-night drives, sharing stupid memes, planning imaginary vacations we swore we'd take someday. She'd curl up next to me on the couch and whisper, "We're perfect. You know that?" And I believed her, maybe more than I should have. But looking back, there were cracks I ignored. Little flashes of jealousy when I'd talked to a coworker for too long. The way she'd cling to my arm in public, almost like she needed the world to see I was hers. She'd make comments like, "I don't want to wait forever, you know? We should lock things down soon," followed by a laugh that didn't quite match the seriousness in her eyes. I brushed it off as normal couple stuff. Everyone gets insecure sometimes, right? One night, as we sat on the balcony eating takeout, she kept staring at me with this strange softness. Not the usual affectionate gaze. This was heavier, almost calculated. I asked, "You okay?" She nodded, but her eyes were wet, and she leaned into me like she was afraid I might disappear. Over the next few days, she became even more affectionate, random hugs from behind. Long emotional texts saying she couldn't imagine life without me, and moments where she'd cling to me as if she was holding on for dear life. It felt less like love and more like she was bracing for something, and then she started acting emotional over the smallest things, quiet, nervous, overly thoughtful in ways she'd never been before. Something was coming. I just didn't know what yet. "This morning has been crazy," Melissa said, pacing in front of me with trembling hands. I need to tell you something." I remember sitting there on the edge of the bed, half awake, half confused, watching her clutch a small plastic stick like it was a lifeline. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. For a moment, everything inside me froze. My ears rang. My heart dropped somewhere into my stomach. I wanted to feel happy God. I tried to let that happiness in, but the shock was too heavy, too sudden. Are you sure?" I asked gently. She nodded quickly. "Yes, I took 3 tests. All positive." I didn't want to wait. "I had to tell you immediately." Her voice cracked in a way that felt rehearsed, but I pushed that thought away inside. My emotions were a tangled mess: fear, disbelief, excitement, confusion. I kept telling myself, if this is real, I'll step up. I'll do what a father should do. Out loud I said, "Okay, we'll figure this out." But then her tone shifted. Within minutes, she went from shaky vulnerability to aggressive planning. "We should tell our parents tonight," she insisted, gripping my arm. "And we need to start talking about dates. Weddings get booked fast. I don't want to be walking down the aisle with a huge belly." I blinked. "Melissa, we just found out. Maybe we should slow down." "Why slow down?" she snapped before softening instantly. "I just want everything to be perfect for the baby." Her eagerness didn't feel maternal, it felt urgent, desperate. Over the next few hours, she dodged simple questions. Which doctor did she call? When was the appointment? Could I come with her? Each time she brushed it off with excuses too early. It stressed me out. I just need a moment. By evening, she was already drafting messages to her parents, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and deep down, something in my gut twisted. Something wasn't right, and I could feel it tightening around me. I kept telling myself I was overthinking things, that the shock was making me paranoid. But the first real red flag showed up 2 days later. Melissa called me at work, sounding breathless. "Good news? I had my first prenatal checkup this morning." I froze. "You went without me?" "Oh, baby, I didn't want to bother you," she said quickly. "You were busy?" And it was just basic stuff. Nothing important. But her tone was rushed, defensive. It didn't match the thrilled, expecting mother she'd been playing all week. When I gently asked, "Can I see the paperwork?" she said, "It's all digital," but somehow couldn't show me. When I asked the name of the doctor, she changed the subject. And when I asked about the due date, she gave me 3 different answers. Inside, my stomach clenched. Something wasn't aligning. That evening, I tried to let it go. Really tried. We were on the couch, watching a movie, and she kept leaning into me, clinging, kissing my shoulder. It felt like she was distracting me from something. Then her friend, Alicia, accidentally let something slip on the phone while Melissa was in the shower. "Girl, are you seriously doing this?" she said, laughing. I froze mid-step. "What exactly is she doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Alicia gasped. "Oh, I mean nothing. Just girl stuff." And she hung up immediately. My heart was pounding. I kept replaying Melissa's strange behavior. The fake calm voice. The inconsistent details. The sudden doctor's visit I somehow wasn't part of. Later, Melissa walked out of the bathroom with a towel in her hair, humming like nothing was wrong. "You okay?" she asked, kissing my cheek. "Yeah, I lied. Just thinking."
Oh.
But I wasn't just thinking. I was connecting dots she didn't want connected. And then, as she changed into pajamas, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. Her body wasn't changing at all. Not even a little. I tried to shake the uneasy feeling, but it sat in my chest like a weight I couldn't ignore. The next morning, while Melissa was in the shower, I finally gave in to the knot in my stomach. I grabbed my phone, opened the browser, and searched the clinic she claimed she visited. My fingers trembled as I dialed the number. "Hi," I said, trying to sound casual. "I'm calling to confirm my fiancé's appointment from yesterday. Melissa Hart." There was a pause. A long one. "I'm sorry, sir," the receptionist finally said. "We don't have any patient under that name. And we didn't have a walk-in appointment yesterday." My throat went dry. I asked again, spelling her name out slowly. Still nothing. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. It felt like a truth I didn't want to accept was suddenly pressing itself against my ribs. She didn't just lie about me being there. She lied about the appointment existing at all. But instead of confronting her, a strange calm washed over me. If she was lying about something this massive, I needed to know why. I needed the full picture before reacting, so I pretended everything was normal that night.
Ow.
She bounced into the living room, holding a stack of magazines and Pinterest boards. "Babe, let's start planning the engagement party. Mom says we should do something classy. Maybe a vineyard theme?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Or maybe obsession." Her parents called later, offering to help with costs, their tone oddly celebratory. Almost triumphant, like they'd won some invisible battle. Melissa told us the wonderful news. Her mom gushed. "We're thrilled. You're doing the right thing, the right thing." That phrase hit me like ice, as Melissa talked about floral arrangements and guest lists. I sat quietly, watching her moves like a chess player studying his opponent, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a lie. This was a plan, and I wasn't the one controlling it, but I would be soon. From that day on, something inside me shifted. I stopped reacting emotionally and started watching, studying, calculating. Every move Melissa made felt rehearsed, every tear. Every smile, every eye, just want what's best for our baby. If she was playing a game, I needed to learn the rules before I flipped the board. One evening, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, twirling her hair with manufactured innocence. "Babe," she said softly, sliding a folder toward me. "My parents think we should open a joint account. You know, for the baby, so we can budget together." I opened the folder and saw forms pre-filled with her handwriting, linking our finances, merging savings, giving her full access. I forced a smile. "Yeah, I'll look over it." Inside, anger churned, thick and hot. But on my face, calm. The kind of calm that makes people think they're safe. Over the next week, I began quietly gathering evident screenshots of her texts, audio notes of our conversations, timestamps of her appointments, the phone call with the clinic. I made copies of everything, labeling them carefully. I even reached out to a lawyer, pretending to seek casual family planning advice. In reality, I was learning what legal protections existed if someone lied about a pregnancy to manipulate a relationship. You're smart to be cautious, the lawyer said. These situations can get messy. Document everything. And I did. Meanwhile, Melissa was accelerating her timeline. One night, she walked into the living room with a radiant smile. So, I told my parents. They're so excited. They think we should do a quick wedding. 3 weeks before the bump becomes noticeable. The bump. The imaginary bump. I nodded slowly, pretending to be overwhelmed in a good way. 3 weeks. Wow. That soon. She slid onto my lap, cupping my face. I just want us to be a family, forever. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. Waiting for me to slip? But she didn't realize something crucial. She wasn't the only one building a plan anymore, and mine was already several steps ahead. I didn't think things could get worse, but the universe clearly wanted to teach me a lesson. About a week before the engagement party, I came home early from work. Melissa didn't hear me enter. The apartment was quiet, except for her voice drifting from the bedroom. At first I thought she was talking to her mom, until I caught the tone. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't emotional. It was triumphant. Yeah, he totally bought it, she whispered sharply. No, he has no clue. Once the wedding happens, everything's locked in. He won't run. He can't. My pulse spiked. I moved closer silently, staying just out of sight. Her cousin's voice came through speakerphone. Are you sure this is a good idea? Lying about a baby is... It's not lying, Melissa snapped. It's strategic. He's been dragging this relationship for years. I'm done waiting. Marriage is what I deserve. And if he ever tries to back out, everyone will believe I'm the victim. Pregnant and abandoned. She laughed, a sound that twisted something inside me. Her cousin hesitated. But what if he finds out there's no... He won't, Melissa cut her off. He's too soft. Too worried about looking like a good guy? Trust me, he'll marry me. And once we're married, he's stuck. My chest tightened as her words sank in. This wasn't insecurity or panic. This wasn't a moment of emotional weakness. This was a coordinated plan, premeditated manipulation designed to trap me legally, socially, financially, and suddenly. Everything made sense. The fake appointments, the rushed wedding, her parents' eagerness, the clinginess, the tears. She wasn't pregnant. She was calculating. I stepped back quietly, forcing my breath to stay steady as she continued ranting, complaining about how men need pressure.
Acting about how a fake timeline is just motivation.
I felt something cold settle inside me. Not heartbreak, not anger, clarity. For the first time, I saw her not as the woman I loved, but as someone who saw me as an asset to acquire, not a partner to cherish. And in that moment, one decision crystallized. If she wanted to trap me, I would let her think she succeeded. Right up until the moment everything collapsed around her. The night of the engagement party felt surreal. Like I was walking into a movie where everyone knew their lines except me. The venue, Melissa chose, fancy rooftop lounge, was decorated with soft gold lights and white roses. It looked beautiful, almost painfully so. And there she was in the center of it all, glowing with pride, touching her perfectly flat stomach every chance she got. "Babe," she squealed, wrapping her arms around my neck. "Everyone's here. My parents, your coworkers, even Aunt Sylvia flew in. This is going to be perfect. Perfect, yeah, perfect for a performance." As we mingled, her parents hovered proudly beside her. Her mother squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "You're doing the right thing, sweetheart. A baby is a blessing. You're stepping up." I forced a polite smile. Of course, always inside, though. Rage simmered beneath the calm exterior I wore like armor. Every guest came up to congratulate us, every hug, every toast. It felt like being buried alive with expectations I didn't ask for. Melissa basked in the attention. She walked around with a hand on her stomach like she was already showing, pausing dramatically anytime someone mentioned the baby. "Oh, we're just so happy," she'd say. "It's been such a whirlwind, but we're already planning the wedding. 3 weeks. People gasped and cooed. 3 weeks? How romantic. Wow. Talk about destiny. She loved every second. At one point, she grabbed my hand and pulled me onto the small stage at the front of the room. Say something. She giggled, nudging me with what she thought was affectionate confidence. I stepped forward, looking out at the room full of people who believed the lie, who believed her. My heart pounded not with fear, but anticipation. I took the microphone. Thank you all for being here, I began, keeping my tone steady. It means more than you know, Melissa beamed beside me. Unaware that her perfect night was inching closer to an edge she didn't see, I glanced at her, then at the crowd, letting the silence linger just a second too long. Because tonight, I wasn't the one being trapped, I was the one preparing the fall. After the engagement party, Melissa's behavior shifted in a way that made my skin crawl. She wasn't just clingy anymore, she was watchful, controlling. It started subtly, checking in constantly. It's asking where I was, who I was with, when I'd be home. Then it escalated. One night as I walked through the door, she was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed. You didn't answer my text, she said sharply. I was driving, I replied calmly. You could have pulled over. Her voice trembled not with sadness, but with entitlement. It was like she believed I owed her every second of my time. Later that week, I caught her going through my phone while she thought I was asleep. I didn't say anything. I just watched her silhouette illuminated by the screen, scrolling with determined aggression. She wasn't looking for reassurance. She was looking for leverage. The next morning, she cornered me in the kitchen. You've been distant, she accused. I kept my tone soft. Just tired? Tired? She stepped closer. Or guilty. Guilty of what? She lowered her voice, her eyes narrowing. If you mess this up, if you ruin this family, I'll tell everyone you abandoned your pregnant fiancée. Do you understand me? The way she said pregnant like a threat? Not a reality sent. A cold tremor through me. I swallowed hard, keeping my face unreadable. Melissa, why would you say something like that? Because you don't get how serious this is, she hissed. You're stressing the baby. The baby. The imaginary baby. The baby that didn't exist, except as her shield and her sword. Later that night, she climbed into my lap, tears streaming down her face. I felt movement today, she whispered dramatically. I froze. Movement. At barely the stage she claimed to be in, it was biologically impossible. And yet she clung to me like she expected comfort, not logic. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. She believed her own lie, so deeply that she didn't see reality anymore. Or worse, she didn't care about reality. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, feeling her arm draped over me like a chain. I wasn't just trapped in a lie. I was trapped with someone willing to destroy me to keep it alive. I didn't think anyone else noticed the cracks in Melissa's story. She was meticulous, rehearsed, frighteningly convincing. But the universe has a way of handing you lifelines when you least expect them. It happened at her friend Maurice's birthday dinner. Melissa insisted we go, even though she'd been too nauseous to leave bed that morning. By evening, she was dressed up, laughing loudly, ordering sparkling water and reminding the whole table not subtly, ugh, pregnancy cravings. During dessert, Marissa leaned over and whispered, She's different lately, huh? I nodded carefully. Yeah, a lot's happening. Marissa hesitated, swirling her drink. Listen, she said, lowering her voice. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm worried. My pulse jumped. Worried about what? She glanced around, then leaned closer. Melissa was out with us last weekend. Like really out. Drinking, dancing, total chaos. She told us she and you were arguing and she needed to blow off steam. My stomach twisted. Drinking. Marissa nodded. Yeah. And when we asked, aren't you pregnant? She said, she stopped herself. Marissa, I said quietly. What did she say? She laughed. She said, relax. Nobody's gonna know. The world went still for a moment. I stared at my glass, gripping it too tightly, forcing myself not to react. Why are you telling me this? I asked, voice low. Her expression softened. Because something's off. I've known Melissa for years. She lies when she's cornered. And I don't want you getting trapped by something you didn't sign up for. I exhaled slowly. Thank you, I said. Just keep this between us for now. She nodded. Of course. Across the table, Melissa was laughing dramatically. Her hand once again resting on her flat stomach like she was posing for an imaginary maternity shoot, when her eyes met mine. She smiled sweetly, unaware that the first person outside our relationship had just confirmed what I already knew. But more than that, someone else now knew her secret, and secrets have a way of slipping. The closer we got to the wedding, the more unreal everything felt, like I was walking through a script Melissa had written and handed me without permission. She micromanaged every detail, the colors, the seating chart, the vows, even what tie I should wear. On the surface, she was glowing, excited, brimming with bridal energy. Underneath, she was tightening the leash. Don't disappear on me, she warned the night before the ceremony. I need you close. Tomorrow is everything. I smiled gently. I'm not going anywhere. She kissed me like she believed it, but I'd already spent weeks preparing for this moment. The wedding venue was stunning, a small hall with high ceilings, ivory drapes, and candlelit walkways. Guests poured in, dressed elegantly, whispering about the upcoming baby, imagining a happy young couple stepping into their future. The irony burned in my throat. I greeted people with steady, polite nods, all while stealing glances toward the private room near the back of the hall, the room where my plan was waiting. A projector, a laptop, files, audio clips, screenshots, and 2 trusted friends. Standing guard, everything was set. Melissa arrived in her wedding dress, like a Hollywood reveal, radiant, glowing, almost ethereal. She wrapped her arms around me before the ceremony. You look so handsome, she whispered, brushing a hand over my cheek. You look beautiful, I replied, and I meant it. The tragedy was that behind all that beauty lived a lie big enough to ruin 2 lives, as soft music began playing. She squeezed my hand tighter. This is it, she breathed. We finally made it. Her eyes shone with triumph, not love. I took a slow breath and nodded, letting the weight of the moment settle into my bones. Yes, I said quietly. This is it. She didn't notice the subtle shift in my tone. She didn't notice the glance I exchanged with the friend waiting by the side door. She didn't notice the slightest tremor of anticipation moving through me. Everyone was in place. Everything was ready. And Melissa had no idea her perfect wedding was about to become the stage for her downfall. The ceremony began like every other wedding I'd ever watched. Soft music, nervous smiles, guests leaning forward with anticipation. Melissa walked down the aisle, glowing, clutching her bouquet with both hands like she was carrying a crown. She looked at me with this victorious little smile, like she had finally secured everything she'd been scheming for. When she reached the altar, she whispered, "Don't cry," giggling. I swallowed. I won't. The officiant began speaking, but his words faded into the background. My pulse thundered in my ears as I glanced toward the side door. My friend gave a small nod. It was time, before we exchanged vows, I said suddenly. Raising a hand, I have something important to share. A message. From our baby. A ripple of confused whispers spread across the room. Melissa's smile froze. "Babe," she hissed softly. "What are you doing?" I stepped back and gestured toward the private room. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life. And then the first recording played. "Yeah, he totally bought it." Melissa's voice echoed through the speakers. "God, he has no clue. Once the wedding happens, he's stuck. And if he tries to leave, I'll tell everyone he abandoned his pregnant fiancée." Gasps exploded across the room. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Her father stood abruptly, eyes wide in horror. Melissa's bouquet dropped to the floor. "Stop it," she cried, lunging toward the screen. "Turn it off. This is out of context." But the next slide appeared screenshots of her fake appointments, the clinic confirming she'd never been there. Messages bragging to her cousin about strategic timelines and locking me down. Then, The final blow. A video clip of her laughing with friends at the bar. Drink in hand, saying, "Relax, nobody's gonna know." The room went dead silent. I looked at her gently, not angry, not shouting, just done. "There was never a baby," I said quietly. "Just a lie you built to trap me." Her knees buckled. "Please, please don't do this," she sobbed. "We can fix it. I'm sorry." I didn't mean, but her parents were already backing away. Her friends stared like they'd never seen her before. Everything she constructed, every manipulation, every lie rumbled right there in front of the people she wanted so desperately to impress. And she realized, too late, that the performance she designed had turned into her own public unraveling. The silence after the final slide faded was louder than any scream Melissa could have made. People shifted uncomfortably, avoiding her eyes, avoiding mine like they were witnessing a car crash they didn't know how to walk away from. Melissa collapsed onto the nearest chair, sobbing, mascara streaking down her face like ink bleeding through paper. I stepped away from the altar, my voice steady. "The wedding is off. I'm done." Her hand shot out, shaking. "Please," she whispered, "you can't leave me like this." "Everyone's watching," I said quietly. "They are." I walked out of the hall as her parents rushed toward her, not to comfort her, but to demand answers. The doors closed behind me, and for the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. The air outside was cold, crisp, real. I stood on the steps, letting the chill settle into my bones like a reminder that I was still alive, still free. Over the next few days, chaos erupted. Her parents called Mai embarrassed, angry, humiliated. "We didn't know," her mother said repeatedly. "We had no idea she would go this far." They apologized for pressuring me, for believing her without question. I kept my responses short. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need anything from them anymore. Melissa tried to reach out, texts, voicemails, long paragraphs promising therapy. Repentance? Change? I didn't respond. Not once. Eventually. Her messages shifted from begging to blaming, then back to begging. Her friends stopped defending her once the truth spread. She'd lied to all of them, too. The social circle she worshipped quietly cut her off. Meanwhile, I took the evidence I collected and met with my lawyer. "I want to file a report," I told him. "Fraud, coercion, whatever applies." He nodded. "We can absolutely do that." Walking out of that office, a strange feeling washed over Marie, grief, and something sharper. Powerment. I'd spent months trapped inside someone else's twisted fantasy. But now I was reclaiming my reality. I didn't get my happily ever after, but I got something better. My freedom, my clarity, my peace. And next time, I'll choose someone who doesn't need lies to love me.